This is the Andre Segovia Show.
Amy Robbins, welcome to the Andre Segovia Show. It's a pleasure to have you on.
Andres, it's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. I started off the year exclusively interviewing, at least for Parler and what the roadmap they were, or the ideas and intentions they had before they launched. It's since then has launched. It has grown by leaps and bounds. And you're the national spokesperson for Parler. What has that experience been like for you?
Man, well, first off, just talk about a transformation. I mean, we're talking about a completely dead, non-existent social media platform 10 months ago, now to a fully robust social media platform that is starting to roll out almost on a weekly, if not monthly basis right now, new applications. And we can talk about all that later, but it is really a complete Phoenix rising from the ashes story. And it's something, when I heard Parler was back and they told me, just like you, this roadmap of where Parler was going to go, I knew that I had to jump on board. I wanted to be a part of it. It's been an incredible experience. The way that I got involved in it, my buddies are the ones that bought the company, and they knew the way to my heart. They said, Amy, we're going to make a platform that is dedicated to keeping children safe online. Mm-hmm. And prior to my work with Parler, that has been my life's mission, is keeping women and children safe. And now to be able to do that on a global platform with a team that is truly dedicated to that, of course, that piqued my interest. And I said, I got to know more, and I want to do whatever I can to be a part of this incredible movement that they're building. So here I am.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm so glad you mentioned that, because we're both parents, and my daughter is my eldest. She's 11 and a half. And social media is unavoidable. And I previously interviewed a fellow tech YouTuber who she's in France and was covering a screen addiction and trying to live a digital minimalistic life. But she knows that eventually her kids are going to require some kind of screen use, and then that opens up a world of possibilities. But when we hear issues from social media like Instagram, I don't even know what's the proper terminology, but there's a lot of groomers on these social media platforms. There's a lot of envy that's led to teen suicides, particularly in girls. And when we see the influence of TikTok with the trans movement and affecting our children, it is a big deal. And I'm so glad you highlighted that point about Parler, because what is Parler doing to avoid some of those pitfalls that other social medias seem to just let or ignore?
Yeah, great question. So I would say there's multiple approaches to this. The first one right out of the gate that we were going to take a stand for was that we were not going to allow any pornography on our platform. People don't really realize how many tens of millions of pornographic, including child pornographic images, are circulating the other big tech platforms. And we just said, look, we know that it's a gateway to human trafficking. So we put our foot down. We, as a private company, decided that was going to be something that we were going to take a stand for. And when you were mentioning groomers, here's a stat you may not know. The FBI recently released a report that said there's around 500,000 groomers a day that are scouring the internet. They're scouring sites like Instagram, TikTok, of course, the traditional social media platforms, but I like to tell parents this too, the online gaming community. Yes. That is like a breeding ground for grooming. And while a lot of parents may think that their children are simply doing these fun little games called Minecraft or playing with Roblox, and they're supposed to be doing educational learning on these video games, what they don't realize is that they could be conversing, because we're talking about live interaction with people on these games, right? And if there aren't built-in really good security measures within those platforms, you have absolutely no idea who your children are talking to, and your children don't know who they're talking to. They might be thinking out there talking to someone that's their age, and it's really a 52-year-old man living in a basement that is bent on grooming them, and so there's a piece where we've got to use our platforms for good, the tools that we have to be able to look out for this and put measures in place that won't allow this. For us, we were starting with, okay, we're going to use certain tools that we have at our disposal to stop pornographic images from even getting uploaded into our platform. we've got a robust roadmap in the future for what that could look like. To currently, we don't have a DM feature, but it is in the roadmap. And a big question that comes with that is, well, how do we, how do you not circumvent people's freedom of speech at the same time looking for conversations that could lead to grooming or trafficking or anything like that? And we're still in the process of figuring all that out, but it is in the back of our minds. If we say we're going to be committed to this, we want to be able to use our social media platform for good. And that kind of leads me into the second piece of this. There's a much bigger play that's going on with what we're wanting to do with Parler, and that is to address this whole idea of the negativity that social media has kind of pushed our society into. And without being the ones who want to go in and force people to behave a different way, we want to change the way that people interact on our platforms to be more positive in nature. We still want you to be able to express your views, have the debates, have all that stuff, but we want people to engage with one another in a way that builds up a community. And so what we found over time is the best way to do that is to incentivize people. We talked about Parler came out with the social media platform first, which is kind of the resurgence of Parler. But some of those big major things that we've launched our own digital wallet here in the last few weeks, which is super exciting because this digital wallet gives our users the opportunity to be in control over their own life and over their own experience on social media. I would love to come back at another point to really dive in depth with, autonomy and decentralization and all of these things that are foundational to who we are at Parler and why that fits in so well with the digital wallet and the digital reward system. But yeah, just all of the things that we are rolling out. We just launched Play TV. I think you're familiar with our Play TV platform. Yeah. So many people were coming out and they're saying, look, we're getting demonetized on YouTube or some of these other platforms, or they're getting just deplatformed in general, right? Because the powers that be don't like what they have to say. You've experienced it. I've experienced it. Lots of the users on our platform have experienced it. So we've got to create this alternative ecosystem where YouTube doesn't have the monopoly anymore for content creators. But you've got platforms that are allowing people to come out there and express their views in a way that's they're not gonna be in fear of being able to put food on the table for their family in case, YouTube doesn't like what they have to say, and then they get completely demonetized. So we're rolling this entire digital reward system into all of our platforms. We just launched our Burst platform as well, which will be the short form videos that are going to integrate into Play TV. And again, content creators and the users themselves are going to be able to take advantage of this robust digital reward system that we have in place since we have chosen to integrate into the decentralized Optio blockchain.
Yeah, and it's definitely something that when we have more time in a future episode, because Parler, everybody knows you guys are welcome to talk about these things, and especially the decentralization part, because Parler, well, technically is not the only one that's done it. From what I have seen and what Parler has shared with me, it's the implementation has been a lot more integrated than other attempts by other platforms. I don't want to mention them because I don't want to think I'm doxing them or anything like that, because I'm there and I enjoy what is available. But when you sandbox yourself so much, when you try to integrate with others, then you're like, then you kind of boxed yourself in, literally. So yeah, it's interesting what Parler is doing, and I'm just happy to see it succeed and how it's making itself in a way cancel proof, whereas a failed leadership before and things like that was Achilles heel. You learn
a big lesson from Parler 1.0. When you seek to create these alternative spaces, these alternative platforms, you have a big target on your back. Well, you aren't autonomous if you don't own the tech to your company, if you are going to be beholden to a third-party cloud server. In the app stores, those are a little unavoidable at this point. But Parler 1.0, what we learned was that they were victims of the largest coordinated censorship attack that we've really seen in this country. It was overnight. And again, this was coming from corporations that in essence, this wasn't coming down from the government overtly, at least, but it was a coordinated attack by big tech corporations, specifically AWS, Google, and Apple. And they came in, AWS shuts them off their cloud server, kills their service overnight. And then Google and Apple decided that the users weren't particularly paying attention to their community guidelines, and they kicked them out of the App Store. So then no new users could go and download it. And Parler at that time was like the fastest growing, most downloaded app in the App Store at that point when they got kicked off. It was really insane what happened to them. But I say there's always a silver lining, because when the new company now it changed hands a few other times, and then it just kind of lay dead for about a year or so. New owners come in, and the first thing they said, if we're going to have a successful platform like this, we have to own everything. We have to own the private cloud. We've got to own the hardware, the software. We have to have a system that we're fully in control with, so that if, someone decides that there's something that they don't agree with, they can't go and take us up. Because look at Elon. How many times is Elon Musk getting threatened on a weekly basis that someone's going to either take them down out of their country, shut their servers off? I mean, AWS would be stupid to kick Elon off. He's got all the money in the world to fight that. But, he's taken a lot of hits for all these other alternative platforms that have popped up after Parler went away.
Yeah. And that's for sure. And I'm glad you brought that up, because technically I do have that on the notes to touch upon. But to wrap up mostly about Parler and then enter, let's just segue into that. It came to light, I think, in just the previous 36 hours, that the UK Labour Party, how that's, to me, it's called foreign election interference. How they've been advising the Kamala Harris campaign, and they were intending on sending about 100 staffers to go campaign on the ground some of these swing states. Like, that's foreign interference. And then when you look into the UK Labour Party, from what I've seen on their documents, that they have a mission to take out, or I think they says kill Musk's Twitter. Like, they just spell it out that way. Like, wow. And what we saw, what happened in Brazil, how it wasn't just that this draconian judge with all this power was eliminating X. They were saying anybody who used a VPN to access X couldn't use it. And they went a step further and said, hey, Starlink is here in Brazil. We will cancel all those licenses unless, Elon, you censor yourself, which he capitulated to do. And even though then recently that kind of relaxed, but that's the extent that it has gotten, where if they can't hit your wallet that way, they'll use the government powers to hit everything else. It's like they won't target you, but they'll hit your family.
And when you are, X is hosted on a third-party cloud. They don't own their cloud. Now, there were some ins and outs with how X got taken down that, all platforms would have been vulnerable to some extent. But owning your cloud is extremely important, especially here in America. There's not a whole lot until we pop up other alternatives for hosting our apps, in the app stores. It's hard to get around hosting your app in Google and Apple, right? It just is. And for a lot of people, they don't understand that even to put an app in the Google or Apple store, like, they actually have guidelines. They're very ambiguous guidelines, though. I do like to talk about that. And if you're not aware of it, it tends to skew towards, hurting conservative voices or just anti-government voices that disagree with what's ever going on in America. And so, but to some extent, like, you do have to play by their rules if you want to have an app, until we have a complete competitor that is not Google or Apple to host your app store. Now, one thing that we have done to get around that is we actually built our entire platform to also have a complete web version, so that if they were to decide again that they want to shut or take out our apps out of the store, you still have a way to access Parler. You still have a way to access your digital rewards that are going to be sitting in your digital wallet. And, to that point, our wallets are non-custodial, which is great, because what we are about at Parler is giving the power back to the people. How do we build a free community, and not just for America, but honestly, globally? You bring up the UK, you bring up what's happening in Brazil. This attack on freedom of speech isn't just, an American thing. It's in our Constitution, so we talk about it a lot, but it's happening all over the world, and people are waking up and they don't like what their government's doing. They don't like what, they're weaponizing, they're weaponizing social media in the UK. And I can't wrap my head around why our government wants to follow in the UK's footsteps all of the time, right? We broke away from them for a reason. And it's like we've got a party that just can't wait to see what the UK is doing and then go and copy it. I mean, Kamala Harris the other day was talking about wanting to use law enforcement against people on social media platforms unless social media censors extremism and hatred. Well, okay, the problem with that is that when you've got one group of people that is deciding what is misinformation or what is hate speech, well, guess what? Now she wants to send the law enforcement after you. And that should really terrify everybody in America if you actually care about your freedom.
And that is the concern that a lot of us in the tech space had when the ADL partnered with PayPal to do that very thing. So for anybody on PayPal, your transactions are being monitored and determined by the ADL. If they see something that they don't like, they'll report you, quite literally. And it's pretty scary that technology is built through a laissez-faire economy and capitalism, but it's run by socialist, leftist, Marxists. Like, it just, that doesn't compute in my head. They're the largest donators to the Democrat Party, but they'll complain if Elon Musk is trying to help the Republican Party when the Democrats are outspending Republicans 3-1. It's like, we don't have an even playing field in there. And when you talk about how if one party rules what happens, that's exactly what happened to Parler, as you highlighted, because it was Amazon with Apple, with Google, and if I recall, also then Parler's attorneys, how they all just abandoned ship at the same time, and it just took everyone by surprise, both the leadership at Parler and the user base. It was just gone, just like that. And it just felt coordinated. And when you realize that a lot of these companies basically share a square in addresses, like, oh, so you guys are just passing notes to one another here, then you'll realize it's not that far-fetched. And that's why I like what Parler has been doing with trying to become its own decentralized place, because it's not the only one that's been trying to do it, but I feel it's succeeding more in the shortest time than others have.
Well, it is, because that's what the new owners brought to the table. I mean, they already understood that. They were already working on the private cloud piece years before they ever considered Parler. It goes back to this importance of why we want to get on the blockchain, how we want to give this power back to the people. You give power back to the people when they have freedom over their data, when they have freedom over their experiences, when they have freedom over their rewards, their monetization opportunities. I mean, and that's just something that you don't get on these other platforms. People aren't even aware, Andres, of when they're scrolling these big tech platforms, how much of themselves they are giving away to these platforms that half the time they don't agree with their values and what they stand for. But those big tech companies are making billions of dollars off of our data that we are literally freely handing over to them. And they take that, they use it, and then they start to manipulate the data so that you only see one side of information. And then we wake up and we wonder why we're in this place to begin with in our country, where you have two sides that just continue to yell at each other through these platforms, because we're only being fed what the big tech platform thinks we want to see. It's very hard to find the opposing side and then use side if we even do try to get the other information out there and it's not something that lines up with what the government wants. Well, guess what? The government is putting pressure on some of these big tech platforms. Zuckerberg came out and admitted that. And they're using backdoor coercion methods to get these big tech platforms to take down and censor information that the government doesn't agree with. And that is wrong. That is scary.
It is scary. And Mark says that supposedly they wouldn't do that again. And a recent O'Keefe Media Group expose undercover found out that they're doing exactly what Zuckerberg said that they weren't doing anymore. Because of course they are. But
of course they are. I mean, you're going to attest to that. You can have, I mean, take somebody like like my own company. I mean, like they still won't allow my company to put our products up on the Instagram store or run Facebook ads. I mean, like, and I can go after influencer after influencer after influencer who says the same thing. You know, they will get posts that were flagged for misinformation. I mean, if you guys remember the post that got flagged for the photo after the first assassination attempt of Donald Trump, Facebook marked it with a misinformation quote. And then they came back, sorry, our AI got that wrong.
And Google had wiped the searches. Google wiped the searches so that you couldn't even look it up. Yeah, I covered it up on my show. But with the time we have left in talking about censorship, I want people to understand that it isn't just about silencing voices and things like that. The same people that are doing the silencing are the gatekeepers of information. And as we grew with some of this technology and got convenience out of it because it was at our fingertips, Google's become a verb. So, hey, Google it, just like Xerox. So when people think of a search, they will go to search for Google. They're not going to go Bing, come on, what's that? And if they think about, well, there is something called DuckDuckGo, XGeves. There's a bunch of other ones, Wolfram Alpha. So they do exist, but they don't think about it. They just go Google. And even in the Google searches, the way the way it's controlled when you're using it on depending on the screen, it could be a portrait mode or widescreen on your phone or a tablet or a computer. There's even a way everything is framed to eliminate certain searches, and certain things are boosted and things like that. And with the influence of AI through Gemini, in just summarizing things now, it's kind of stealing content creation because, like, well, isn't it's supposed to be like pay-per-click kind of thing? The point is that censoring to silence somebody is one thing, but controlling the flow of information, and we think it's organic. A lot of these responses, like, where all these people are supporting Kamala Harris, where did they come from? Well, those were not organic. And when you're seeing all these supposedly positive news about Kamala Harris, but you don't see the AD right there, it's like, wait a minute, I thought it was a headline. Promoted posts.
Conditioned to think that we're back in the day, Andres, when the searches would pop up most relevant and like most factual way long time ago. And now people are still conditioned to think, oh, well, if it pops up at the top, it must be the most popular search site. It must be the right information. And it's, they've got all these algorithms that are doing that. And so, like, one thing that we're doing differently, and you'll notice this on Parler, is that we're getting back to that old classic model of social media where we don't have an algorithm built in right now that filters out your feed. So you actually have the option. I don't know if you've noticed, but I mean, 90% of my friends that I actually chose to follow don't even show up in my feed anymore. And I'm getting all these suggested people on my feed now over the people that I actually took time to go and follow. You're not going to find that on Parler. It's actually still going to be the chronological order. You'll still be able to see everything that your friends post. And then what I still love the global feed too. Yeah. And of course, as more users start to get on and use the platform, you're going to see a much more diverse range of content that's going up there. But to that point, on the global feed, if you post, you're going to be on that global feed. Now, it might get drowned out with other stuff. So the more you post, the more it's going to pop up on that global feed. And to that point, when we talk about this digital reward system, I want people to understand, first off, go secure your Parler Pay wallet. Make sure you use the same email address that is attached to your Parler account. And I just want you for 1 week to go in, to start liking, sharing, and start posting content on your page, and then open up your Parler Pay wallet and see how many points you've earned. What you're about to be able to do with those points is going to be incredible. We are going to be rolling out an extremely robust marketplace where you will be able to actually have utility for the things that you're earning, and it's not costing you anything. You scroll on Facebook, you scroll on Instagram, you scroll on TikTok, and you get nothing in return as the user. You're the product. On Parler, it's completely different. We are flipping that. No longer are we taking your data and selling it to anybody. We're actually going to be rewarding you with points as you use the platform. So we want to shift you over from just sitting there mindlessly scrolling and giving away all of your information and letting somebody else make billions of dollars off of you. We want you to be able to actually earn and even opt in if you want to be advertised to. And then guess what? you get rewarded for giving your information to the advertiser. So just a completely different way of thinking about things. And we really hope to change people's experience to be a much more positive experience. And we want the community to grow and flourish while we're doing it. So we're excited.
Yeah. Yeah, control over your data. I love that. And that's kind of been the recurring theme for my show this year. I don't know if you know this, but Eric Prince's company, Unplugged, I covered it when I did a Rumble exclusive because the phone wasn't out yet. And I just heard about it because James O'Keefe talked about it. And Eric Prince saw that. And that's how I got connected to Unplugged. And exclusively interviewed the execs over there. And I got the first hands-on and review of the device. And that has been basically the conversation for the rest of the year on my tech channel, because that conversation started security, privacy, what that all meant, and what it meant to break away from Apple and Google, and people realizing just how much control these companies had over them and their data. So I love that Parler is giving that control to the people.
We got to, there's a lot of work to be done to combat or even get this message out there. I can't wait to go watch that episode. I appreciate what you're doing, because the more voices that are out there that are sharing the message about what big tech platforms are doing with their data, the more I think people's eyes will wake up to it, and hopefully become a concern to them. Hopefully be the reason why they go and seek alternative platforms. Because right now, nobody reads the 30-page privacy reports. They terms of service, they click on it, they just accept whatever's going to happen. People are now just used to giving away all their data for free. But hopefully people wake up to really understand what's going on and how it's being used against them. And hopefully that will move them over to looking for alternative platforms like a Parler.
And because that's all the time that we have for, I'll let you have the last word. Where can people find more? Well, Parler.com, I'm sure, but where can they definitely look for more information on Parler and where they can sign up?
Yeah, absolutely. So the big things right now that you can go and download in the App Store, you can definitely download Parler, but you can also download Play TV as well. In the next week or so, you'll be able to download Burst on your mobile app. But in the meantime, if you want to go to Parler.com, you can go to that website. It will start to give you all the information on everything that we're rolling out. And when we're rolling it out, sign up for the newsletter and then get you an account. And like I said, make sure that you secure that Parler Pay wallet so that you can go in there on a daily basis and just see how many points you've earned for engaging with the community.
For everybody that is following the show, listening or watching, you know the drill. All the links mentioned will be available on the show notes accompanying this episode at theandresegovia.com. And when you're at Parler, make sure you follow me at theandresegovia. And Amy Robbins, I think yours is the Amy Robbins, or just Amy Robbins on?
Yeah, it sure is. You can follow me for sure. Parler Community is a great one. And then also the main Parler social account is a fantastic one, because that's where we're going to give you, as the Parler community, all the first announcements on any updates that are being made to the app, any roll-ups that we're doing. You're going to get the firsthand information right there from those accounts. So definitely go give those a follow.
Amy, thank you so very much for being here to talk to me about the updates on Parler. Looking forward to seeing the rest of it play out. And we'll be talking again soon about decentralization, I'm sure.
Let's do it. Thanks for having me on. Have a great one.